Calvin isn't breathing. I think I may have killed him, Sarah cried into the telephone. That's the first line of Lovers Lies and Lilies. And it's about a woman who is in a abusive relationship, and her husband is drinking since she had an abortion. She miscarried. She didn't abort. But anyway, this is fiction. It's a delightful little tale. But anyway, I'm going to continue reading this. And this is a canon. And it only goes a certain time span. It shuts off automatically. So I'll read, and when it shuts off, I'll post. If you want to buy this book, you can go to ronaldwalkerauthor.com/store. And it and 29 other books are available on that website. There is a contact form that you can send me an email. We'll talk about everything, because I've got a special on buy one get one free. Have to communicate about it and talk about it. But anyway, Calvin isn't breathing, Sarah cried into the telephone. I think I may have killed him. First, if he is dead, I am not sorry. Second, I will not miss his abusive, worthless ass. Third, you did not cause his death. You did not have control of the situation. You are not responsible. So get a grip on reality and be calm. It is not your fault. I'm going to call for help and then come over. If anyone comes to your house except medical help, keep them outside until I get there to take care of everything. It will not be very long. I will locate Jack and tell him what has happened and where I'm going to be. Settle down, calm down, and I will see you in a few minutes. Carol hung up the phone before Sarah could respond. Sarah slowly turned to replace the telephone, moaning when her injured hand bumped the counter. She sat down at the kitchen table and fiddled nervously with the edge of the tablecloth while thinking about the previous evening. A perfect evening began at a local nightclub with dinner, a few drinks, and dancing. Several drinks after their meal, Calvin refused to talk anymore or dance, and just sat across from her with his head down, mumbling to himself. Shortly after Calvin left the table, a tall muscular man with large Shortly after Calvin left the table, a tall, muscular man with dark hair approached Sarah and asked her to dance. She politely declined and asked him to leave before her husband returned. He smiled and said, "Do I look like someone who is afraid of the world or all the boogers in it?" "No, I am not questioning your courage. Nothing will be said to you, and it won't be your problem. Will it be a problem for you?" Dink. "Yes, it will. I cannot allow that to happen. Please leave. I'm begging you to listen to me. If my husband sees you talking to me, I'll be in serious trouble. You can't imagine how much." Sarah continued looking beyond the man to search for Calvin. "If you need help, you just sing out and I'll take care of your husband." She looked directly into the man's eyes with a plea in her voice. "You might be able to do that here at the nightclub, but you can't come home and protect me. Please leave. You have no idea what will happen." "I know what I can do. Nothing will happen." "Oh no, it's too late. Here he comes. Please leave. Maybe he hasn't seen you." "I think he has. I'll just explain that I asked you to dance and convince him you did nothing wrong. He can't be upset about that. You have no idea. Please leave. You can't help. You'll only make things worse. He sighed and shrugged, then reluctantly turned his table and slid his drink around to another seat positioned with a view of Sarah. Calvin's eyes never left the man once he spotted him while passing the bar upon his return from the bathroom, and he squished Sarah over in the booth seat to sit next to her instead of resuming his seat across the table. He finished his drink, then one he ordered on his way to the bathroom, while continuing to glare at the man. After what seemed like an eternity, he slurred, "All right, let's go." He stumbled and lurched into a leaning position over the hood of the 2-year-old 1942 Dodge. He often bragged of his stealing the car by paying only $250 when the selling price of the new car was $1,100. Pushing away from the car, he stumbled down the side to grasp the door handle and halt his faltering steps. Slumped forward in the car with his hands on the glove box, he rested his head on his arms and remained silent on the way home, then began drinking and mumbling to himself again. He drank until the bottle was empty, poured another, carried the second bottle back to his chair, and threw the first bottle at the waste can by the bar. The whiskey bottle struck the side of the trash can, knocked it over, and broke against the wall. Sarah went into the bathroom and locked the door. She removed her makeup, undressed, and took a shower. As she toweled off, she wondered if he would drink himself into a stupor and pass out as he'd become prone to do. Calvin drank moderately before Sarah miscarried, when his drinking increased. He blamed Sarah for being physically too weak to carry his child. The scorn escalated as he began to fault her for everything and anything that was wrong, or he imagined to be wrong. The first act of physical abuse was mild compared to the last. With the increase of his drinking over the last 2 months, his anger and abuse increased. She dressed in her nightgown and sat at the dressing table to dry her long blonde hair. The splintering sound of wood filled the small room as he battered the door. Calvin put his hands through the hole in the door and pulled pieces away to make the hole wider, until he could push his hand through the hole and open the door from inside. Pushing the door open, he rushed at her. The first blow slammed into the back of her head, knocking her from the stool. He pulled her from the floor and pushed her through the bathroom door into the second bedroom. "Who were you making eyes at the nightclub?" His spittle flew from his mouth. He hit her, splitting her lower lip, and held her arm to prevent her from falling away from his reach. Her head reeled and her vision blurred. He released his grip and struck her with a right-hand blow to the side of her head, followed immediately by a glancing blow over her right eye. She staggered and swayed, instinct fighting for her to remain standing. But she lost her balance and fell to the floor, shook her head in an attempt to clear her vision, and fought to remain conscious. Got to change that. In 2 quick strides, he stood over her, panting and wild-eyed. The kick to her stomach sent her rolling away from him, but he moved with her, then repeatedly kicked her in the back, upper leg, and buttocks. When she was no longer moved or flinched, he returned to the den and continued drinking straight bourbon. His mood became darker with each drink until he slammed the glass onto the bar top and weaved his way toward the bedroom. Sarah strained to hear the familiar sounds of liquor bottle against the glass tumbler, then pushed up on her knees and stood on her wobbly legs. She staggered, attempting to regain her balance, stood and slowly moved toward the bathroom. Stepping into the hallway, she came face to face with Calvin. Fingernails dug into her scalp as he gripped her hair, slammed her head into the door frame, and slammed. Inches from her face, he said, "Bitch, I'll kill you if you ever talk to another man. I'll kill you if you ever try to leave me. You're mine, and no barroom Romeo is ever going to have you. You're a miserable lay and a shitty wife. Can't give me a baby. Aren't fit for nothing. Don't think you're leaving. I'll stop you. Maybe miserable with you, but you ain't going anywhere now, nowhere. Ain't going nowhere. You understand me, bitch?" He threw her against the opposite wall and viciously pushed her down the hall toward the door of the den. She lost her balance and fell when he struck her in the back of the head. He staggered and lost his balance while attempting to kick her, then returned to the den, leaving her on the floor. He knocked his drink glass to the floor and shattered it. The stench of whiskey filled Sarah's senses. He took another glass from a shelf behind the counter and threw it against the wall over Sarah's outstretched body. The glass hit the wall, bounced, and struck Sarah in the back. She curled her body facing the end of the hallway and the bathroom. Calvin staggered to her and kicked her in the stomach and left side of her head. He braced himself with one hand on the wall as he bent over and threw a roundhouse punch, landing a blow over her left eye. She did not see the blow that knocked her unconscious. She revived and, to her amazement, found she was in a process of crawling into the den. As she regained awareness, a moan of pain caught Calvin's attention. He lurched over to her, raised her